Doesn't matter. You own the shit. There's no payment due on it, and you're trying to make money back on something that was ill-gotten gains from the beginning. Please stop virtue signaling that you are selling Balenciaga stuff offhand, resell, secondary. We're not thrifting that anymore. Burn that shit. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to 4F TV, where we cover all things from faith, family, fitness, and freedom. I'm Brian. That's Ben. And today, I'm trying to keep the energy high because we got a messed up episode that we're going to be talking about.
Try to stay happy on this one, right?
Yeah,
positive.
Yeah. If we can find the light in the darkness of this situation, maybe we can come out the other side with some good actionable steps. But today, in episode 18, we're talking about how Balenciaga ads push child pornography. Is that a bit clickbaity? Not really, because that's pretty much what's going on. But I'm sure all of you recognize what's been going on over the last week or two, where Balenciaga came out with two different ad campaigns. The first one had to do with like children holding teddy bears that were in bondage. And then like there was a little bit of uproar. Apparently that wasn't enough to stir the common people in today's age, which is insane. Because the second I saw that, I was disgusted and was like, what is going on? And then a second ad campaign rolls out that's got like a Balenciaga bag that's $3,000. And right next to it is newspapers from 2008 showing child pornography laws and what's being passed and what's not. And what we'll get into later is how there's basically what we, it's questionable, but sometimes like the most demonic stuff hides in plain sight these days. There was a reference to an old demonic god from biblical scripture that was like hiding in plain sight. That there's a lot of things to unpack in this, but
where to start, man?
So much. I was just about to say I got to take a breath already because I'm pissed off.
It's a mouthful for sure.
Here's the thing. You guys just read what I put up. I'll put it up one more time. The first ad, children like 7, 8 years old. This isn't as Ben and I were talking off air before this, like this wasn't a oops 17 and a half, not 18. It's like freaking young children holding teddy bears in bondage.
I think there was also, if I remember right, I think somewhere in the background of that marketing campaign or that picture or video, whatever it was, I thought there were also some other types of like illicit adult level like sex toys or things like that. So it wasn't just a slightly questionable teddy bear.
Right.
This was very, very, very like.
Well, they had another ad that didn't target children, but it was basically a dude sitting in a throne with like his genitals hanging down with a woman underneath him. And it's just like,
oh, it's disgusting.
This is not art. And I'm sorry, any artist listening, if you think that's art, like I love you. I'm praying for you, but please unadd me. Please unfollow. Please unsubscribe.
Yeah.
Like,
do not click below. Do not subscribe. Do not like.
No. Yeah. Don't do any of the like, comment, subscribe that we talk about because, man. But here's the thing that bothered me. I was reading, like almost every publication is going to be a little biased one way or another. One thing that Ben and I are going to talk about is how little uproar has actually taken place out of this, considering I feel like the last 3 months has been an echo chamber of all these horrible things and all these things like cancel Elon because he's buying Twitter and he's making free speech more available again. But then that free speech is semi being abused by Kanye's radical thoughts. But like Kanye's speaking a lot of truth that people don't like to hear, but then he's also saying horrible things that like conflict with the truth that he's trying to tell people or the mindset he's trying to create. And he also like is a genius that does not know how to articulate himself. So then everything comes out wrong, but everyone's getting canceled. And then we come across this Balenciaga advertising child pornography for sales and profit, and no one's saying a word. And here's the thing that I wanted to point out. It was an excerpt from the New York Times. This was one of the first initial responses from Balenciaga. We want to learn from our mistakes and identify how we can contribute. Are you kidding me?
No, sorry.
The first ad, well, we didn't even know about that. The second ad,
I'm sorry, but that's a lie.
You made a mistake twice. What are you talking about?
They tried to blame that like on somebody in charge of their marketing, and it's like, no, that's not how. The thing is that's not how businesses work. You don't have somebody in charge as a well-established brand like that. You don't have somebody in charge of your marketing who, first of all, has free reign to do what they want. Everything they put out is approved by upper tier management and ownership, right? And so none of that stuff happens. Now they're looking at it saying maybe it was a mistake to put it out, but what happened was not a slip on their part. It was very intentional.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's I apologize if I'm not looking straight into the camera for you guys right now, because I'm going to read you some of the other pieces that I got out of the article.
Go for it.
But, almost 2 weeks after the storm started brewing, and after a series of Instagram apologies that failed to quell it. Yeah, because Instagram's the way that you handle this, right? Like, let me just throw up a story and act like I'm real sorry. But after the failed to quell it, the brand issued a statement admitting a series of grievous errors for which Balenciaga takes responsibility. The fashion house announced ongoing internal and external investigations and new controls, and said it was reaching out to organizations who specialize in child protection and aim at ending child abuse and exploitation. I'm not hearing any of that, Balenciaga.
Nope.
It does not take it takes the competence of the children in your ads to understand this is not okay.
Yeah.
But you are manipulating them. You are putting them in bondage in sexually exploitive situations for your profit. It does not take a genius. Whether it was internal, external, whatever, everything Ben just said, like, especially when you do outside campaigns, which they're trying to say this was a creative done by a partnership with, I think the name's Derma, who's like technically not CEO, but he's this creative, brilliant artist that I'm sure that's probably where some of Kanye's comments that we'll get into like relate to. But apparently it was the outside agency that never got the ads cleared. It's like, if the ads never get cleared, how the hell is it running from your business?
Yeah. And
that's
the other
a lie.
You also have to play the process of common denominator. And if Balenciaga was putting out like the most benign, normal advertisements, like, all together, and then boom, this popped up, and it's like maybe they got hacked. But like you said, there are other things they put out there intentionally discussing laws around child pornography, really incredibly explicit, just disgusting, cringy stuff that very much is highly sexual and weird. And again, we also have to look at this, the signs of the times. We're talking about some serious, back and forth with legal matters concerning school systems that were trying to very, deceivingly slip in curriculum that's specifically aimed at teaching kids in the single digits, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old kids, teaching them all kinds of stuff about sex and variations of sex. And I mean, it's like, the only person who would stand to benefit from that is somebody who had the intention or the ideal to normalize kids being sexual, which is not okay. It's not okay at all. And so, I mean, none of this is by happenstance. None of it is like, it's a coincidence. This stuff has been kind of surfacing a lot more aggressively in the last couple of years, a lot more flagrantly. Drag Time Story Hour, I saw something like a couple months ago, and it was like literally like these, small children, and a couple of the screenshots or video clips that were recorded during this Drag Time Story Hour literally involved a man in a dress, and he was either within close proximity of a child while touching his crotch, or the child was, if I remember correctly. And then another one was like spread eagle on the stage, in a dress. And it's like, what? This is stuff that would never have been allowed or even dreamed up. We never would have ever thought this is something we'd be having a discussion about. Here we are.
Right. And here's the let's see. Let me get a few more of these little one-liners in here. But here's one thing I do want to say. This isn't just a Balenciaga thing. Like, obviously, they're the ones that have messed up recently. They're the ones that we're doing this episode around. But before we even get into some of this other stuff, here's the question I want to ask. And again, like, this may make some of you not want to subscribe to our channel. That's okay. You have the free will and the free choice to do that, the freedom to do that. One of the F's in 4F, freedom. You can choose to not subscribe. But here's what I want to know. Kyrie Irving, for as wild as he can be with thoughts sometimes, with flat earth and everything else, one thing he did that I fully support him for was not be bullied into getting vaccinated. Mm-hmm. He said, I don't trust it. The science isn't there. Me personally, I don't want to do it. Now, they painted him as selfish, as egotistical, as narcissistic, as wild and selfish, and you're letting down the team, you're letting this, and that. And like, I get it. Sports is generally all about the team. But that decision has way more ramifications on your life outside of the sport or career. Mm-hmm. So I am fully with him saying, you know what? Here's the other thing. Somehow in Brooklyn, if you played for the Brooklyn Nets, you had to be vaccinated. If you were a fan, you didn't. If you were a visiting team, you didn't. Just the Brooklyn Nets players had to be vaccinated to be on the court. So Kyrie would sit courtside with them, but not be dressed in his uniform and his jersey. So it's like, there's no common sense there. No. If you got vaccinated, I don't care. That's your decision. If you didn't, I don't care. That's your decision. But it's the fact that someone like Kyrie around vaccination has been canceled. Mm-hmm. And now this year they're trying to demonize him again. And I'm not saying that I support all of Alex Jones's thoughts or his documentary. I haven't even seen it. But all Kyrie did was reshare Alex Jones's documentary, and he got canceled again.
Exactly.
And they're like, you're anti-Semitic. You're this, you're that. And the whole anti-Semitism, there's nothing okay with being anti-Semitic. Let me put that out there, first of all. We're not telling you to hate Jewish people. That's not what we're saying. But the fact that because he's being labeled as anti-Semitic, because he shared a person's documentary who's actually so anti-Nazi, I don't understand how you could also be anti-Semitic at the same time. But he's getting canceled. But
the point is the message they've been sending, whether it's about questioning the government or wanting to holding the government to our constitutional rights, or it's people expressing free speech in areas related to the entertainment industry. The fact of the matter is the powers that be, right? Whether it's the entertainment industry, the giant corporations and entities that are signing checks and sponsorships, whatever else it is, they are making it really clear, like, you are walking on eggshells. If you go this way a little bit or too far this way a little bit, like, we're gonna literally ruin your career. But I talked about this, like, it was a couple years ago. They tried to go after Kevin Hart over stuff that he said, like, in some sketch or monologue, like 13 years ago. And it wasn't even something that was really that abrasive or offensive. It wasn't any different off from any other satire that he has in terms of how he usually, presents his tours and stuff.
Right.
They went after Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
All of the Rainbow Coalition people, like all the LGBTQXYZ, whatever, they all went after him. And he has evidence, he has proof that he's had friends in the past that are trans, and he's basically been, he
had a trans woman be his protege for comedy, who unfortunately ended up taking her own life.
And largely due in part to the way the trans community treated her, or whatever. So, but the point is, they aggressively did not waste any time at all. As soon as a snippet would come up from a decade ago or whatever it is. But everybody is church quiet about this whole thing. And it's like, well, if there's one thing that should bring Republicans and Democrats and independents and everything together in terms of things we don't mess around with, it's the safety of our kids.
Absolutely.
Right? It's the safety of our children. And when that has basically, you know, no pun intended, been sacrificed on the altar of human hedonism and carnality, it should be a wake-up call. It should be a really big wake-up call.
Well, and this also just expresses the powers that be at play, because here's the thing. What's the difference between Kyrie, Alex Jones, and Jeff Bezos? Because Jeff Bezos and Amazon were a platform for Alex Jones's documentary, and they were selling subscriptions to watch it. So the company that's hosting and selling essentially like the ticket to get access to it doesn't get punished. But the employee, the cog in the machine, the like non-vital person or person that's already been labeled or deemed problematic is getting canceled again. Yep. But you're not canceling the dude that's helping truly promote it and platform it. Yeah. And it just doesn't make sense when we look at these things. And again, I'm not here trying to convince any of you like you like you should somehow pray for deliverance of your vaccination if you got vaccinated, or like nobody should be in each other's business about this anyways. Like the craziest thing about this whole, like, if we're going to go back through history, or at least the last 3 years of history, it's like the whole vax thing is personal, like HIPAA compliant information, if you really think about it. So why is anyone talking about someone's personal medical situation?
It was never supposed to be something that became a matter of public discord in the first place.
Right. So we just look at everything where like, and here's some of the quotes, because here's the thing. Everyone is also ripping on Kanye or Ye lately because he's making some really wild comments. Like he's coming across anti-Semitic, but he's saying, I am one of the chosen Jewish people. I can't be anti-Semitic. And that's also something that Kyrie Irving echoed. But at the same time, he's saying he's pro-Hitler and pro-Nazi. And like, it doesn't matter the atrocities that he caused. Like, we need to celebrate the great things. And it's just like, yeah, I understand like this microphone could be an iteration of what like Nazi scientists created. It doesn't mean the Nazi movement was good. It doesn't mean Hitler was good. And for him to say that is absolutely, I'm not going to say unforgivable, because we're called, at least as Christians, we're called to forgive. But it's one of those ones where it's like, dude, once you say that, like, I don't know how you ever come back from saying something like that. But in the same breath, he's the one that he got his ties severed from Adidas and Balenciaga, ironically. And he was one of the first to come out and say, see what they're doing at Balenciaga, see why we're talking about this demonic stuff, why we all need Jesus. And I was 100% for him with that. But then he comes back with this comment. I stand by Balenciaga and denounce all the witch hunts, and I cancel culture. Jesus is king. Ending trafficking doesn't start or end with fashion campaigns, for Christ's sake. And it's one of those things where it's just like,
I just want to swipe that off the screen violently, man. Like there's so much word salad and BS in that it's like, again, it's trying to make sure you, which coming from Kanye of all people is just wild at this point, that he tries to cover all bases, tiptoe gently, and then make sure that like he still plugs this brand and doesn't condemn them entirely or whatever else. But it's like, again, people's entire careers and livelihoods, people go after, they've been gone after with just great violence in perpetuity until you are successful at it. But exploiting children, especially in this, you would think, like, think of other hot button topics, right? Like race issues. Like, there's a kid from, I think it was University of Florida, just lost a scholarship.
Yeah.
His father's not. Yep, because somebody had a 2-second clip of him rapping along to some song in which he, said the N-word. Okay, so I'm not even going to get into the fact that like these moguls and industries make tons of money selling to various races of people who all sing along and rap along to the songs. That's a whole nother discussion to have. But the point is, there's no track record of this kid being hateful or racist or anything like that. No. He made the mistake of playing the wrong song and letting somebody catch him singing along to all of it. And there's been thankfully there's been some people that were like, hey man, too far. Even people from the other side, of the political aisle, and even people who are representatives of Black America are like, dude, the guy lost his whole life. You're gonna ruin his whole life, like.
And it's a 2-second clip where clearly he had a story that was much longer than that.
Yes. And
so you didn't even take the whole lyrics.
No.
You tried to take him with music in the background, saying the one trigger word that would get him canceled.
Right. Exactly. So the point is people from both sides of the aisle, in terms of, kind of political stances, and people who are, they're part of Black America, have basically said, hey, this is too far. Like, his entire life, his career, everything, you guys are going to try to ruin it because of this 2-second video you have of this guy doing or saying something that, maybe it's not the best look, but is it representative of what he's about? Absolutely not.
We're not condoning like saying the word, but it's one of the things where when you also have other Black people coming alongside being like, dude, he's rapping a song, and no, he probably shouldn't have sent that on a video to a friend, but the thought was he sent it to a friend and then it got exploited and exposed.
It got turned into that. So my point is, those people, because of who they are or who they are not, meaning who they're not representing, or who they don't have in their pocket is a better way to say it. Those people are being canceled, and they're being canceled very aggressively. There's not like, I'm going to call it what it is. This kid did not get his day in court at all to justify, to argue, plead his case at all. But these entities or companies that have, ties to, Jeffrey Epstein and these other celebrities and stuff like that, they get a free pass, like a complete free pass. There should be stuff that is on like the headlines on the news. It should be like a huge issue. And this is the part that blows my mind. We could spend 6 months a few years ago trying to figure out if Trump had an affair 20 years ago with someone else as grown adults, right? It's all the news talked about. But we got people out here, after everything we've learned about the whole Epstein fallout and scandal, people, committing suicide strangely on the side, in addition to himself, right?
Yep.
And people aren't up in arms about this. Like, this is like the writing is on the wall, and we're not really talking about it.
Coming back to what he was saying, Kanye, is never turn our backs on Demna and Balenciaga family for life, who he already severed ties with and now isn't severing ties with. And Kim took like a week to even respond to the whole Balenciaga thing, and is like, I'm really considering whether this is a company I can stay attached to, or some variation of that. And it's like, it shouldn't even be a thought. It shouldn't be a decision. And the fact that these people are like, especially Kanye, like, I'm sorry, dude. Like, I've tried to have his back on some things, and I think he's misunderstood on a lot of things because he can't articulate himself that well. Mm-hmm. But in the same breath, it's like, you can't support what's openly demonic and then say praise Jesus in the same breath.
Well, that's the thing is, I'm sorry, but when people throw things out there like, Jesus, heal this whole thing, right? I'm sorry. It's like throwing some Southern colloquialism in there where you can say the worst thing possible and follow it up with like, bless their heart. It doesn't change what you said. It doesn't even kind of mitigate it a little bit.
Saying no offense.
Yeah, no offense, right? With all due respect, and then say something really disrespectful. But the fact of the matter is, if you read your Bible even a little bit, you would know that there's not, if Jesus were to walk in the flesh into that situation, there would be a whole lot more like table turning and whipping going on than there would be like, let me have a talk with you about how we heal this whole thing when you've been exploiting children. I'm sorry, but hashtag not sorry. This is BS,
Yep.
And so I really take kind of same stance you take. There's some things that Kanye said that I think he has been vocal about the stuff you're not supposed to talk about, which I can appreciate, because there needs to be more people who aren't afraid of being canceled. Yep. But after this thing surfaced as clearly as it has, and then for him to say, like, well, I'm not going to turn our backs on the family. We can't do that. Something, Jesus heal. It's like, no, We're past the point. This is not like we're getting together to form a prayer circle because someone's kid has the flu. That's the part where you say Jesus heal. Right. That's cool. It's fitting. But when you're exploiting children, and we know that we're seeing an epidemic of child trafficking like we've never seen before, and people are using tools like the internet and stuff to make that possible, and celebrities and politicians all came up on this list of people who are going down to some secret island somewhere or whatever else it is. Like we're at a point in time where pulling the punches has to stop.
Right. And there's also no coincidence that this man that may or may not have been running an island exploiting children was also tied to ownership and investment inside of Balenciaga, Gucci, and other brands that are all under the same ownership group in Europe. So it's one of those things where it's just like, dude, like, and again, this isn't just clothing and brand. I'm not going to make an argument of who's more or less demonic because that's missing the point. The point is it's getting more and more obvious how messed up and dark and evil a lot of things are, and it's hiding in plain sight right in front of your nose, and you're turning the other cheek in the wrong way that we were commanded to do so. Like music art, like Lil Nas X dressed up and acted like the devil in his music video. No canceling, nothing, fine. Kendrick Lamar is dressing up, acting like he's Jesus with the crown of thorns, dying for our sins. And I'm sorry, I don't care what your belief on this is. Nobody should do that. Nobody should be dressing up and acting like you're Jesus doing this, because that's not okay, especially when you put it in rap music with other vulgarity and demonic things influenced inside of it. And Katy Perry was on a show. I mean, Ben and I also talked about you can just see certain actions, but we're trying not to judge the person. But her words herself, she was a Christian, grew up in the Bible Belt, was a Christian artist, and was like, I'm not making any money. I can't make a life out of this. And openly says, I sold my soul to the devil for a music career and fame. Like, and the point being is like, why is it so normal and acceptable for people to hear like someone's like, I'm a Satanist, the devil is great? Like we can say all these heretical, terrible things, but the second someone says Jesus is love or God is love, Jesus heals, not in the Kanye context, but like Jesus is king, we're up in arms. We're trying to silence people that are speaking out of the truth of the Lord, but all this demonic stuff festering is okay. And like, I'm saying this somewhat rhetorically because I already know the answer. Like it's the time we live in. If you're a Christian at all listening to this, you understand we're closer to end times or in them than you might think or want to acknowledge. And like, we're not in eternity. We're not in the world or the version of the world we've been promised in the future. We're in a messed up, fallen, sinful world. So it is not surprising, but at the same time, it's still shocking when things like this happen, where it's like someone makes one as long as the comment goes with the agenda, nobody says a word. But as soon as it goes against the agenda, we got to cancel this person. We got to silence them. We got to deplatform them. And like, again, it's the fact that like even Kanye saying like, I'm canceling cancel culture. I'm all for that. I don't think everyone should be canceled because they have a different viewpoint than you. Now, if you start throwing out crazy, insane crap and you're actually like, your hate speech is actually full of hate and you're trying to mobilize that hate, yes, of course that's a problem. But when we're just talking about people having differing opinions, don't cancel the person. Don't deplatform the person. Just because someone is right-leaning instead of left, don't kick them off a platform. Just because someone believes in smaller government than bigger government, or says, maybe these like elite billionaires in the world have a little too much power and influence and monopoly over the direction of everything that's going. And Kanye is one of the ones that was a billionaire, spoke against the billionaire agenda, isn't a billionaire anymore, and he had my sympathy. And like you were saying, Ben, he said a lot of things where he's calling out some of the darkness, but now it's kind of like the scripture that we said before. It's like when you sweep the house clean of the demons, if you don't fill it with the Lord and it's empty, it comes back sevenfold. And it's almost like that's what's happening to Kanye in real time, where it's like, dude, you stood up for what's right and you had our and we had your back, but then you completely 180'd and went against everything you just said.
Yeah,
I think stood in solidarity.
I think that the, you know, from what I understand about the whole realm of human trafficking too, from the people I've had conversations with, the people I know that contribute, you know, significantly to some of the organizations that are working independently against it. The people that are involved in it, it's like, it's almost like this, like mafioso kind of gang creed. Like everybody has so much dirt on the other person,
right?
Like structured in a way that, you know, so it would make it impossible for somebody to rat on somebody else without it backfiring in them. Almost like in the way that we are like at this, like the idea of like nuclear war, where like none of us are going to push the button, you know, because it like would guarantee that we all die. Right. And so it's kind of at that level of corruption. It's that deep from what I understand. And very, very few people are willing to either put their life on the line or their career on the line entirely, meaning and walk away from all of it, right? Well, potentially just be kind of like, you know, blacklisted, right? Just be pushed out entirely to stand up for what's right. And, you know, there's a reason why that the whole adage of, you know, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter heaven. I think that once you get into show business or you know, being some kind of, you know, elite figure of idolatry, basically, that very few people want to give up that level of attention and money and whatever else it is. And it's sad.
Right. It just breaks my heart, like watching this. Cause first of all, I'll just throw a little thing out there that I saw from people that I follow. Like, if you want to know what hiding in plain sight is, like, here you go. Like one of the old, like, demonic spirits masquerading as Lord was a god named Baal or Baal. Some people say it the other way. And basically he was just during like Canaanite times, people worshiped him, thought he was all powerful. And a lot of people still don't really understand the full story of him. But it's this thing where, like, if it's a false god, if it's demonic and it's hiding in plain sight, it's interesting that people might say like, oh, well, that's not how Balenciaga is spelled. It's like, okay, we'll take the extra A out and it still says Baal is the king. But then you can look at that most recent ad campaign that they had and write on some caution tape down in the corner. There's Balenciaga spelled in 2 or 3 different places, but down in the corner, it says B-A-A-L. Doesn't say the rest of it. It shows like a ream of Balenciaga tape, but it's 2 A's. You really think that that was a mistake? Like, again, this whole ad, I guess the whole thing was a mistake because we didn't know that they didn't get approval for this and they put it out and we can't be responsible, but we feel terrible about it. And then the creator, like, oops, accidentally put 2 A's because I never would have thought of this demonic false god from biblical times. It's like, no, it's right in front of your face. And you want to know what else is disgusting about this whole thing? And I'm sorry, like, this is where, like, I'm probably going to have to, like, pray and repent after this call because I feel like I'm judging people, but it feels like righteous judgment. If you are watching this and you are reselling your Balenciaga stuff, stop it.
Stop it.
Right.
I've seen too many people on Instagram
say, I'm so furious with Balenciaga, me and my boyfriend and my friends, we're all getting rid of all of our stuff.
So we're selling it at a discounted price. And I'm like, screw you.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot say you are angry with what they're doing and how they're profiting if you are trying to profit off of this. And they'll be like, well, I'm not making back the money. Doesn't matter. You own the shit. There's no payment due on it, and you're trying to make money back on something that was ill-gotten gains from the beginning. Please stop virtue signaling that you are selling Balenciaga stuff offhand, resell, secondary. We're not thrifting that anymore. Burn that shit. Get rid of it. Tear it up. Use it for your campfire. Use it for your fireplace at home, or just throw that shit in the trash. Go wrap up some stuff you need planted in the yard and put that shit in the ground. Like, I don't care, but please stop trying to virtue signal that you are so against this, and then in the same breath, in the same freaking social media story, but I am going to sell it at a discounted rate. Because guess what? Like, how does that even make sense? Because then you're going to judge the person buying from you like, oh, well, they're supporting Balenciaga if they're going to wear it. Like, what is wrong?
I'm not keeping it. I'm not keeping this anymore because it's been kind of born of a company that exploits and has nothing against the rape of children. But apparently, you would like to buy it from me. So you know, just there's no part of it that makes any sense at all, other than the fact that there's still like there's a sense of guilt that something needs to be done. But there's also still tied to a little bit of greed that you can't just let it go. You got to figure out how to get some money back for it. You know, you should be taken outside and burning it, really.
Yeah. I even take back the planting, because somehow that's going to be a demonic seed that plants in your backyard.
Just burn it, man.
Just burn it and throw it away, like any of that stuff. And you know what? I'm sure there are lower level people at Balenciaga that had no idea what was going on.
Absolutely.
And my heart goes out to them. I'm sure they had no idea that they were working for a company that's pushing an agenda like this, that's okay advertising like this. Guess what? You're not who I'm talking to. My heart goes out to you. I would suggest you go try to find another job really quick, because it's kind of one of the things that's just like, the reason the saying ignorance is bliss typically is true is because once you have information, you can't unhear it. Once you know the truth behind something, you can't act naive to the situation anymore. We're not spiritually and scripturally, we're not judged by what we don't know, but we are judged by what we know and what we choose. So if you didn't know this beforehand, like probably 99.999% of people, that's okay. But now, nobody should ever be buying another piece of clothing from them. Nobody should be reselling clothing from them. Nobody should be working for them. And I'm sorry if that sounds harsh, but I'm also not sorry, because I believe this is a good message and it's true. Stand on some form of moral and say, I could never work for a company like this. And guess what? I hope like support networks come out of this for people transitioning out of a job like this. Like, let's help them find work really soon. Let's help them get employed. I get it. You're probably worried, like, I still have bills to pay. My bills don't stop because I quit this job. Trust me, I get it. But you can't pretend you don't know something once you know something. So I'm really talking obviously to Demna and the owner of Balenciaga and the investment group out of Europe that owns Gucci and all these other ones. Like, guess what? Balenciaga is the one that got caught, or they're the ones that are more open and demonic about it. Doesn't mean the other companies aren't running off of the same parameters or off the same lack of morals. So just be aware. Look at everything else that Balenciaga is tied to. Epstein. But like it's, you guys get what I'm saying. Ben gets what I'm saying. I'm really not trying to come across like acting holier than thou, or like I'm boasting in like my spirituality, or I'm condemning you. I'm really not. But guess what? You could be given a good word that's convicting, but if you're not ready to receive it, it could feel like shame or condemnation or sound like an attack against yourself. And it's not. But if that's where you're at, like, I pray for you. I hope that you'll be able to actually step back from the emotions you're feeling and see like the logic and reasoning behind what I'm saying. Like, you cannot unknow what you know. And when you continue to support what you know, even if you like, it turns into virtue signaling. It turns into hypocrisy. It turns into you being a liar. Once you know, you can't unknow. So stop supporting these companies that are doing this. And it's crazy. And it goes back to the whole, I mean, this is a loose comparison, but it's kind of like the old saying of like, people are willing to pay full price or above price for people and companies they don't know, but you won't even support your friend starting a business. You're asking for discounts or free shit. And it's just like, maybe this should be the awakening you need, that it's like, you know what? Even if it's not cool or it doesn't give me clout, maybe I should go support my friend that started that that garment business, that one that like has been putting out custom tees for the last 3 years and is barely staying afloat. Maybe I should only buy t-shirts from that person or bags from that person. Or maybe I shouldn't be spending $3,000 on like a stupid bag that does the same thing as a $10 bag. And again, like, I'm not here to tell you like what to do with your money, where you spend your money, what's valuable or not. But like at some point, a damn shirt's a shirt, like a sweatshirt's a sweatshirt, a bag's a bag. And like, it's just crazy to think that it's usually the companies that are selling shit as this like premier prestige, exclusive high-end brand that's profiting thousands is also doing some of the most dark stuff behind the scenes to further those profits in that disgusting mission.
Yeah, sure. Got to bankroll the whole project somehow. I'm sure that's how it starts.
Yeah. I mean, how many bags does it take to fund an island?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
You know, like, but anyways, we know this was a tough episode. This was a big episode. This was a lot going on. One thing I did want to share, just because it's another buzzword and a hashtag, we're going to bring Andrew Tate into this conversation, because I just thought it was interesting that obviously like he's also someone that they tried to cancel and deplatform, and he's quote unquote too big to cancel. And there's other companies like Rumble that believe in free speech and a platform for people. And like, obviously nothing of what I'm saying is, I believe if people are actually trying to harm people with their speech and be hateful, I'm not promoting that at all. I'm just promoting that it's okay to have different opinions and disagree about things and not get deplatformed. But one thing that he said, because he's not a Christian, he might be a Muslim, but he has a very open interpretation of what he believes God and spirituality is. He actually said the way he came to God was by encounters with like the devil and demonic things. He's like, if there's this much evil in the world, there's got to be the opposite of that, which would be God, the righteous, the holiness. And one thing he said with his interactions with people that are truly like satanic and demonic is they hide everything in plain sight and they push accountability. Listen how Balenciaga said, we're looking into this. We're looking at how we can better support. We're trying to figure out who's at fault here. There's no ownership of we knew exactly what we were doing. And what he said, his analogy was with the poison apple. It's like, if I give you the poison apple and don't tell you it's poisonous, I'm killing you. I'm harming you. But if I tell you it's a poison apple, but I dress it up as this magical thing, and you choose to take the poison apple,
one bite and all your dreams come true.
You're harming yourself. The blood's on your hand. You committed the egregious act against yourself.
Now make a wish and take a bite.
And it's like, he said that in response to how Balenciaga's ads were. And I just want to bring that to light for some of you who maybe are seeking Jesus right now. And maybe you're trying to seek truth in a time where like, we don't know who we can trust or what's real on the internet. I would encourage you to just like, know that a lot more stuff is hiding in plain sight. You need to do a lot more research about who's behind what news is coming out and why, what else is happening when these big news events are happening. But also, if you have a relationship with Jesus, and again, I'm speaking purely as like a Christian right now and where my faith is and Ben's faith, but it's like when you read the Bible, when you read the word of God and the truth of God, the more relationship you have with God, I think the better your discernment becomes around stuff like this. You can start seeing things for what they are before you involve yourself, before you open up a door that you may regret opening. And I know that sounds really intense for like, dude, I just bought like sandals from them. It's like, I know, but like the devil is a roaring lion. He's a slithering serpent. He's all the analogies the Bible uses to describe the form that he takes and the way he's cunning and deceitful, but also destructive. And he will look for anything to use against you. But when you're equipped with the armor of God, go read Ephesians 6 and you'll know what I'm talking about. When you are equipped with the armor of God, you can protect your mind, you can protect your heart, you can protect your body, you can protect your life and the lives of the people around you with this truth. Because I'm sorry, one of the most frustrating yet beautiful things about today is how much information is out there.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's why so much stuff hides in plain sight, because you're so inundated with information. Sometimes it's like, that's why on diets and fitness, it's like, oh, I'm going keto this week. I'm going carnivore this week. I'm going high carb, low fat this week. I'm going fasting. I like everything's right? Like everything works and everything doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with all these other things going on a much deeper, more harmful level. Like you think, like, why? Ask yourself, why do I need to buy the $300 pair of flip-flops that have a designer name on it? Why am I that prideful? Why am I that, why do I need that much clout? You didn't buy those sandals for yourself. Like if you bought them for yourself, it's because somehow the value of being able to buy an expensive thing made you feel better about yourself, or made you love yourself, or made you feel special. But like ultimately you're pretty much doing that for a wrong form of love in yourself, but you're also doing it because you want other people to notice you. Why do you need people to notice you based off of the things you buy and the materialism in your life? What's the difference between me wearing this zip hoodie from Champs, which, you know, I have no idea how it was made, so maybe I'm going to end up being hypocritical here, but what's the difference between this like $35, $40 zip hoodie and a $500 zip hoodie from Balenciaga? The difference is mine has no name. Yours has a name across that will immediately set a tone of status or clout for yourself. Most people support these massive brands and look the other way for information they may or may not consume, because they still are seeking something externally to get validation, when honestly, that's just a spiritual thing. That's an emotional thing. That's a mental thing. Somewhere in your past, you had to earn love. You weren't given love. You weren't appreciated. You weren't validated by the people closest to you that you trusted. So you're looking for it everywhere else in life, by the brands you wear, by the cars you buy, by the job title you hold, and none of that holds any place in any real value. So I'm just inviting you, like, maybe open up the Bible this week. Maybe like go read in Genesis about Baal. Go read about like Sodom and Gomorrah. Go read about these things that like may sound crazy, but then you can see parallels of what's going on today. Like learn about the stuff we're reading about. Maybe it'll give you answers that you've never found before. And not just in that, just the Bible in general. Go read the gospel and learn about why God loves you so much. Like there's so many better things that you can be doing with your time, your money, your talents, your treasure, your efforts. And I just wanted to bring that to light, because obviously, like, I've been worked up this entire call. I think Ben has had a little bit more of a level head than I have, but I think there has to still be an actionable piece out of this. And I know Ben would agree with that, and I know you'll probably add your 2 cents as well. But my actionable item out of this is like, go pick up the Bible, go get to know God, specifically go get to know Jesus, start in the gospel, figure out why he loves you, why he came, why he died for you, why he wants relationship with you, and start fulfilling that inner piece that's missing. Because you're never going to find it out here. You're not going to find it in Balenciaga. You're not going to find it in the music industry. You're not going to find it in the sports shows that you're watching, the Netflix and chilling that you're doing. You're not going to find it anywhere outside of yourself. So, and again, hard truth. Once you know something, you cannot get away with pretending you don't know.
Yeah.
So think about where that applies in life.
We're definitely at the stage in time where our usual stance, especially if you have a viewpoint that you would consider typically to be more conservative, we can't really identify as the silent majority anymore. Whether we are the majority or not, we really can't be silent about these things, because the fact is we're past the point of shots fired, and now it's not about shots being fired in some kind of gray areas of our exercisable rights. We're talking about shots fired at the, viability and innocence of our next generation. And so it's past the point of any wishy-washy any, like I said, gray areas where we might normally find some room that's kind of loose for, you know, agree to disagree. We're not there with stuff like this. It's wide out in the open. For a while they were doing it and then saying that's not what we're doing. And now we're at a point in time where they're literally doing it and then hoping that people won't notice it as much and that we'll go about our way anesthetized by our endless sources of media and other things that we're consuming without really doing anything about it. And that has to come to an end.
Yeah. So with all that being said, if you have stuck around to this point of the episode, if you've seen where we're coming from, if you agree with what sort of our insight, our perspective and stance on all of this is, throw us a like, drop a comment down below. Let us know, like, again, is this content valuable to you? Do you like when we bring in some more culturally relevant things that are going on? Because Ben and I can talk about anything and everything, but we always want to make sure that our content is catered to you and valuable and impactful to you. And if it is, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel and you have the notifications turned to all. We're putting out one video every week. It might change, especially now that, I mean, this episode went a little long, but we also had our connection issues and other things that, like, I have no idea how long this episode actually is in real time. I'll have to figure this out after the fact, but we're usually putting out one a week. But now that we're doing shorter formats, we might start putting out 2 to 3 a week and try to give you guys a few more conversations every week. But ultimately that starts and ends with your support. So if you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe, smash the like button so YouTube knows to send it out to more people. And again, comment. We want to know, how do you feel about the whole Balenciaga thing? How do you feel about Ye West? How do you feel about everything that's going on in this world? What's your take? We'd love to hear it. And until next week, just thank you again for, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a podcast, thanks for tuning in to 4FTV, where we talk about everything from faith, family, fitness, and freedom. I'm Brian. That good looking dude over there is Ben. And we can't wait to see you on the next.